The alien sun bled orange across the war-torn skyline of Veltraxis Prime, casting long shadows over the shattered remnants of what had once been a capital city. Spires that touched the clouds now lay crumbled, streets ran black with ash, and the air itself trembled under the weight of silence. A silence not born of peace but of devastation. High above, the shattered moons hovered like broken teeth around the planetary ring system. Satellites flickered sporadically, their orbiting corpses testifying to the fury of the conflict that had unfolded. Smoke curled upward in lazy plumes, reaching for a sky that would never again be clear. The war was over. The Veltraxi Empire had lost. But none of them could understand how. A lone figure moved across the desolation with practiced silence, stepping through debris, past smoldering tanks and the twisted wreckage of air skiffs. Her armor was jet black and bore the silver insignia of the Order of Kavra, a division of the Veltraxi Honor Guard known for executing only the most dangerous missions. She was Commander Sorexis, second-born of the noble Viric bloodline, decorated war hero, and until recently commander of the Imperial Third Legion. Now she was a ghost among ghosts. She stopped beside the remains of an alien dropship, not Veltraxi, not of any known rival faction. It had no transponder codes, no design registry. Just black, brutal elegance. Angular plating with no visible seams. Weapons that had cut through planetary shields like parchment. The humans had called it a Vulture-class scout. She called it a nightmare. Sorexis activated her neural uplink, the node embedded at the base of her skull humming to life. Target location confirmed, came the voice of Intelligence Prime. Last known coordinates of the human commander are 75 meters southeast of your current position. Proceed with caution. He is considered dangerous. That word again. Dangerous. It felt so small compared to what they had witnessed. Her warriors, millions of them, had died screaming into the void. Star cruisers obliterated before they could power shields. Generals had broken formation mid-battle and abandoned fleets, citing psychological disruption. Whole colonies surrendered after intercepting one human transmission. It wasn't weapons. It wasn't technology. It was something else. She rounded the corner of a collapsed communication tower and froze. Ahead, sitting calmly atop the twisted wreckage of a downed atmospheric fighter, was the human. Not a god. Not a beast. Just a man. Unarmored. Unarmed. And looking straight at her like he'd been expecting her. Sorexis's gauntlet twitched. She brought her rifle up, targeting optics zooming in to confirm the face. The human known only as Cassian Holt. Rank, unknown. Allegiance, Terran Vanguard. Psychological profile, unstable, highly intelligent, unbreakable in interrogation. He smiled. Not with smugness, not with malice. With something worse. Recognition. So, he said casually, swinging his legs as if sitting on a childhood swing, "You're the one they sent to kill me." "I came to speak," Sorexis corrected, her voice filtered through layers of translator tech and helmet vocoder. "You have information. My empire wants to understand what happened here." Cassian shrugged. "Funny. I thought you wanted to understand why you lost." Her grip on the rifle tightened. "That too." He leaned back, propping himself up on his elbows, completely relaxed. "You're afraid, Sorexis." The way he said her name, without translator assistance, without error, sent a ripple through her. "I am not afraid of you, human," she said coolly. He tilted his head, as though examining a curious insect. "Then why are your pupils dilated?" She faltered. Her HUD hadn't indicated a fear spike. She was in control. She had to be. Cassian stood, stretching as if waking from a long nap. No armor. Just that long, weather-worn coat. Dust clung to his boots. He stepped forward, gaze locked on hers. "Your kind still doesn't get it. You never asked why we fight the way we do. Why we burn everything down. Why we stare into the dark and smile." Her weapon tracked him the entire time. Her targeting reticle blinked red, 20 possible kill shots. But she didn't fire. Not because she couldn't. Because something inside her screamed don't. "You were losing to the Zarn," he continued. "The folders. The Nebulan hives. You begged us for aid. Then you betrayed us when we refused to bow. That was a strategic necessity." He waved it off. "Save it. You don't understand war. Not like we do. Not like we had to." Sorexis felt her blood chill. There was something wrong with his tone. He wasn't boasting. He was remembering. "I've seen what you call fear," she said, forcing her voice steady. "We have interrogated dozens of your soldiers. All of them resisted, poorly." Cassian grinned. "Of course they did. We don't train to resist fear. Then what do you train for? He stopped walking close now, too close. To walk with it, he whispered. To use it. You think fear is something to avoid. We think fear is a knife. And we've learned to keep it sharp. Her finger hovered near the trigger. What are you? She breathed. Human, he said simply. No. That's not enough. Your kind, what happened to you? How did you become like this? His eyes narrowed and the smile vanished. You left us alone for too long, he said. That was when the ground shook. Far away, a deep, thunderous rumble echoed up from the earth. Sorexis turned instinctively, switching her optics to seismic overlay. Her HUD flickered. Subterranean movement. Something big. Not mechanical. Biological. What is that? She demanded, spinning back, but Cashin was already moving. That? He called over his shoulder, striding toward the epicenter, unafraid. That's the reason we're not afraid anymore. She followed, compelled despite herself, weapon raised. The quake grew stronger. From the crater beyond the ruins, light began to bloom, not soft light, but a rippling aurora of blues and reds, like blood and ice dancing in fury. And then she heard it. A sound that didn't belong in this world. Oh, wrong. Like a choir of voices turned inside out. From the abyss a shape rose. Tall as buildings. Wings of crystallized matter. Eyes like burning galaxies. It was alive. And it was human-made. Sorexis stumbled backward. What is this? You cannot have built that. Cashin didn't stop walking. He stood at the crater's edge, arms wide. The beast bowed its head to him. He turned to her, voice quiet but clear, cutting through the wind. Why aren't you scared, human? She asked, her voice cracking. Cashin met her gaze, and his answer froze her blood in her veins. Because we already lost everything, he said. And now there's nothing left to fear. The words echoed through Sorexis like a psychic tremor, tearing loose something ancient and primal. Because we already lost everything. And now there's nothing left to fear. Cashin Holt stood like a prophet on the edge of the abyss, arms open as if welcoming judgment. Behind him, the colossus rose fully from the earth, each footstep sinking the land beneath it. Its form was vaguely humanoid but distorted, like someone had sculpted a god from raw emotion and then tortured it into steel. Wings of translucent plates shimmered behind its back, refracting light into unnatural spectrums. Its surface crawled with motes of liquid metal, constantly shifting, rewriting itself. It looked alive. It was alive. And yet it served. It bowed to the human. Not out of command. Out of recognition. Sorexis' rifle trembled in her hands. That's not a machine. Cashin tilted his head slightly, half amused. Correct. It's not. Then what is it? A consequence, he said. The ground continued to quake, but it wasn't just from the creature now. Seismic pulses, deliberate ones, rippled outward from its steps, like sonar waves made solid. Around them, the broken ruins of Veltraxis Prime began to change. Dead metal lit with energy. Ash rose in spirals and didn't fall back down. Chunks of shattered starships hovered above the ground, trembling like leaves on the edge of a storm. It's waking up the city, Cashin said, glancing around. That's new. Sorexis had to force herself to speak. You're not in control of it? Control is a primitive concept, he replied, watching the light spiral across the broken skyline. We made it, yes. But that, he gestured to the monster, that made us in return. Sorexis blinked. What are you talking about? It's called the Fear Engine, Cashin said softly. One of the first successful symbiotics ever developed by the Vanguard. Not a weapon. Not a ship. Something else. It bonded with a team of neural engineers in the last years of Earth's fall. She took a step back, eyes never leaving the thing as it extended a hand toward the sky. From its palm bloomed a sphere of writhing black light, anti-photons, she realized. Darkness so intense it ate color. But Earth never fell, she whispered. You won your war. Cashin looked at her with a gaze that didn't belong to a man. We didn't win, he said. We survived. The Fear Engine's sphere exploded silently into a bloom of shadows, washing the ruins in flickering reverse light. Suddenly, the Veltraxi structures, once proud bastions of imperial authority, began to melt. Not physically. Conceptually. Their architecture blurred, eroded, becoming crude echoes of themselves. What is it doing? Sorexis shouted. Cashin's voice was quiet, reverent. Showing you what we see when we dream. Sorexis backed away, trying to focus, but her vision twisted. Her HUD flared with red glyphs, errors, corruptions. Her armor's AI babbled nonsense. And then she saw them. Shadows within shadows. Human shapes, flickering in and out of the world like ghosts. Dozens. Hundreds. Marching in silence across the void, through memories that bled from the ruins like wounds. Each of them bore the mark of war, but not like her soldiers. No medals. No banners. Just eyes. Cold, calm knowing. What are they? She rasped. Cashin answered without turning. Every human who ever stared into the dark and didn't blink. And then his tone shifted, hardening. We learn the truth the way all animals do, through pain. You think fear is weakness. But fear is the first teacher. It's the voice that screams, get up, when everything else says, give in. Sorexis couldn't look away. She felt her knees weaken. Not from exhaustion. From pressure. As if reality itself was folding around her, reshaping to fit this truth being injected into the air. The fear engine began to walk again. Its steps didn't crush. They altered. With each footfall, the very rules of the battlefield changed. Veltraxi material crumbled into dust. Human alloys grew in its place. The gravity fluctuated, aligning with Earth's standard. It was terraforming the city. No, not terraforming. Reformatting it. Cashin turned back to her finally, walking closer, until they stood almost nose to nose. She kept her rifle pointed at his chest, but her finger was nowhere near the trigger. She wasn't even sure she remembered how to pull it anymore. I've studied your empire, he said. The ritual duels. The honor codes. The endless pride. He leaned forward, his breath fogging her visor. You fight to win, he said. We fight to survive. You draw lines. We burn maps. You plan wars. We end them. Why? Her voice was barely audible now. Why such violence? His expression darkened. Because when we called for help, he said, no one came. Silence. And in that silence she understood. They had once been like her people, proud, methodical, restrained. But something had broken them. Something had burned away the limits. Left only sharpened instinct wrapped in the skin of intellect. They hadn't become monsters. They had outgrown fear. You shouldn't have come here, Cashin said softly. Sorexis finally lowered her weapon. This isn't war. No, he agreed. This is memory. And it's contagious. From the horizon, more fear engines appeared, rising from the dirt like titans from ancient myth. 4. 9. 12. Each unique. Each terrible. They were not constructs. They were trauma made manifest. And they were waking up. The sky cracked with stormlight as the first one raised its voice in a soundless roar. Cashin looked upward. They're responding to your presence. You woke them up when you dropped your fleet. They remember being buried beneath your cities. Beneath your songs. Beneath your silence. Sorexis turned, trying to activate her evac beacon. Nothing. Jam. Disrupted. The city itself was a cage now, shifting every moment, feeding on her anxiety. I don't want this, she whispered. Cashin didn't blink. Then why did you come? She looked at him, really looked, and saw behind his human form the shape of a soul that had never stopped falling. No one else made it out alive, did they? He shook his head slowly. Your fleet's gone. Your council's fractured. This planet, it's a monument now. To what? She asked. He smiled again, that smile. To a species that was never supposed to survive. But did. Sorexis dropped her weapon. The fear engines turned their gaze on her as one. And for the first time in her life, a commander of the Veltraxi honor guard dropped to her knees. And begged. Sorexis remained kneeling, her armor servos locking into place as if afraid to even breathe. The ground beneath her trembled, no resonated, with a frequency that bypassed her senses and gnawed at the soul itself. 12 fear engines stood in formation around the ruined city's core, silent titans of shifting form and meaning. One looked like a dying tree made of bone and starlight. Another, a spiraled helix of jagged steel and human faces, each frozen in a scream. A third bore the shape of an unborn child, the size of a dreadnought, curled into itself as it pulsed with memories. They weren't just weapons. They were grief sculptures. Why aren't they attacking? Sorexis whispered, voice cracking in her throat. Cashin's expression remained still, calm, but now haunted. They don't attack unless you lie. The words sank in like a blade made of ice. Her mind raced. Then, this is interrogation? Cashin's eyes glimmered in the dim aurora radiating off the engines. It's confession. Sorexis dared to look up. And then she heard it. A voice, not in the air, not in her comms, but within her. Like a thought that wasn't hers. Tell us why you came here. The language was raw, meaning felt rather than heard. There was no room to dissemble, to mislead. The question demanded more than a verbal answer. It demanded truth. She tried to resist. Her species had evolved layered cognition, internal barriers for deceit, misdirection, diplomatic obfuscation. But the moment she even thought to hide her motive, the nearest fear engine twitched. Reality shivered. Her vision blurred. The buildings around her blinked, gone then returned, but wrong. Inverted, mirrored, twisted inward. Like the city was rejecting her presence. Cashin didn't move. You don't have to lie. Just tell them what they already know. Sorexis felt a hot rush in her chest, panic. I came to understand your weapon, she said aloud. The engine. The humans behind it. I wanted to know how you did this. The shadows hissed. A low hum, growing sharper. What? No, she said, breath catching. No, wait. That's only part of it. Cashin stepped forward, slowly. They know the difference between curiosity and intent. And suddenly it broke in her mind like a dam snapping. She couldn't hold it anymore. Not against the pressure. I came to find your weakness, she blurted out. To identify the fractures. To build a countermeasure. To defeat you. Everything stopped. No quake. No sound. Not even wind. Cashin closed his eyes. There it is, he murmured. The first honest thing you've said. One of the fear engines moved, not toward her but toward the ruins beyond. With a single gesture, it disassembled a tower in silence. The components floated into the air, suspended, then reassembled themselves into something else entirely. A doorway. Made of memory. Cashin turned to Sorexis. They're offering you a choice. That's rare. Must mean something about you interests them. What kind of choice? She asked, still shaking. He pointed at the doorway. Walk through and they'll show you. Not just how we became what we are, but why. The truth beneath the fear. The beginning. Sorexis stared at it. The shape seemed impossible. Every angle shifted when not directly viewed. The edges whispered things her translator couldn't parse. And if I refuse? Cashin glanced at the sky. The 12 titans began to close in. You don't want that. She rose slowly, every fiber of her being screaming in rebellion. A commander didn't yield. Didn't enter traps. Didn't submit. But this wasn't war anymore. This was a reckoning. She stepped through the memory gate. The world dissolved instantly. Not like teleportation. Not like death. Like rewinding a nightmare. Colors inverted. Time folded. Her body came apart and reassembled inside a realm of stillness and soft, eternal screaming. Not pain, remorse. And then she was standing in a hallway. Not a battlefield. Not a fortress. A hallway. Earthborn. Metallic. Faint fluorescent light flickering overhead. She recognized it from intercepted data files. A ship. A Terran ship. Not war class. Civilian. Science vessel. Or what was left of one. The walls were scorched. The floor painted with soot, handprints, and dried blood. The air hung thick with the memory of screams. Cashin appeared beside her. Not walking. Just present. What is this? She asked, eyes darting. The beginning, he replied. This ship was the Lance of Providence. It carried the first humans to breach the Yelshan Rift. That was where we made contact with the Folded Ones. She recognized the name. A species so alien even the Veltraxi refused diplomacy. Hostile to all life. Driven by madness. They devoured minds, he said. They didn't conquer. They unmade. This ship was the first to survive long enough to return. He gestured to a nearby door. She opened it. Inside was a chamber of data banks. Every screen flickered with scrambled feeds, snippets of human minds under siege. Thoughts corrupted. Memories altered mid-recall. Emotions flayed bare. She saw one crew member weeping, smiling, laughing, screaming, all in the same minute. We learned that our minds were fragile, Cashin said. We also learned that fear, raw, unfiltered, was immune to them. A mind expecting horror cannot be undone. Sorexis turned slowly. So you weaponized it. He didn't speak. He didn't have to. In the next room she found the first prototype of the fear engine. Not a machine. A person. Wired into a cradle of fluidic processors. Eyes open. Mouth frozen mid-scream. Brainwaves oscillating between terror and focus with perfect rhythm. You tortured your own people, she said, aghast. We volunteered, Cashin said. Because the alternative was extinction. And then she saw the name etched into the wall above the cradle. Seat Holt. She turned to him, stunned. He nodded slowly. That was my twin. My brother. He went in so I could get out. Every time the engine activates, he's still in there. Dreaming in fear. Holding back the folded ones. Holding back everything. The room dissolved again, melting into light and rain and silent thunder. Sorexis fell to her knees, overwhelmed. Not just by grief, but by the scale of it. The way humanity had burned its own soul just to light a single torch in an endless night. You could have shared this, she said. You could have warned us. Cashin crouched beside her. We did, he said. But your kind only listens when the universe starts screaming. The vision shattered like glass. She found herself back in Veltraxis Prime, kneeling where she'd been. But something had changed. The engines were still. Watching. And inside her head, the voice returned. You have seen. You may now speak. Cashin stepped forward, voice low and calm. They're giving you a chance few receive, Commander Sorexis. Speak truth now and maybe, just maybe, you'll leave this place alive. Her hands clenched into fists. She raised her head. And began to speak. I came, Sorexis began, voice raw, to find your flaw. The fear engines remained still, but something in the air tightened, like a cord being pulled taut. Cashin stood silent beside her. Watching. I was taught that humans are dangerous because you're unpredictable, she continued, rising slowly. Her hands shook. Not from fear now, but from understanding. That your minds are chaotic. That your violence is instinct. That your worlds breed madness. She looked up at the 12 titans encircling her. Their gaze wasn't eyes, yet she felt them. Felt them pressing into her soul like fingers made of history. But I was wrong. She turned to Cashin. You're not dangerous because of chaos. You're dangerous because of clarity. Because you learned how to carry fear like a blade. The fear engines vibrated softly. A resonance. An approval. Cashin's face was unreadable. And now you know why we don't run from fear. You run toward it, she said, breath catching. You built shrines to it. You made it your foundation. Your compass. A long silence. Then, what will you do with this knowledge? The voice of the engines. Inside. Beneath. Around. Beyond. Sorexis felt her heart stutter. The air around her crackled with potential. She hesitated. I don't know. I don't know if I can carry it. If my people can understand what it cost you to become this. Cashin stepped forward. Then give it to them the way we received it. She looked up sharply. In fire. A ripple passed through the fear engines. The city's ruins responded. Spires of glass and ash lifted from the ground. Symbols formed, etched with molten edges, burning with cold light. They weren't words. They were records. Memories. Traumas. The cost of survival. Sorexis stumbled toward them as if pulled. She reached out a hand, and the instant she touched one, her mind exploded. 1,000 lifetimes. 1 billion screams. Earth burning. Moons shattered. Colonies begging for aid. Silence from the stars. Ships full of children, suffocating in the dark. Humans dying alone on alien soil. And then, rising. Always rising. Bleeding but standing. Crying but fighting. Alone but unbroken. She collapsed. Cashin caught her. They'll show you what we lost, he said quietly. So you understand what we refuse to lose again. She looked up at him with hollow eyes. You're not human anymore. No, he agreed. We're what comes after. And then, far above them, the sky tore open. Not metaphorically. Literally. A streak of blue fire burned across the heavens, spiraling down into the atmosphere. It wasn't Veltraxi. It wasn't Terran. It was other. Sorexis' eyes widened. Folded ones, she breathed. Cashin's smile vanished. They're coming back. One of the fear engines turned its head toward the fire. The light within it changed, no longer memory but rage. This place was supposed to be sealed, Cashin said, frowning. Their influence shouldn't have survived here. Another streak of fire. Then another. The ground trembled, not with awakening but with warning. Sorexis stepped beside him. I thought you defeated them. We slowed them, he replied. We made ourselves invisible in their spectrum. Until your fleet arrived and lit a beacon across the void. She froze. I didn't know. I believe you. He turned to her. But now that you do, the question becomes, what will you do about it? She stared into the distance where the sky boiled open. Dozens of ships now. Twisting, fractured geometries. No engines. No symmetry. Just presence. The folded ones had returned. Cashin looked at the engines. We can hold them. But this time you'll help. Sorexis stiffened. Me? You've seen the cost, he said. You felt it. That means you can speak it. And your people might listen. I'm a commander, not a savior. So were we. The engines began to move, slowly, their forms reconfiguring. No longer sculptures of memory. Now weapons of war. Battle forms. They're not here to destroy you, Cashin said. They're here to offer you what the galaxy never gave us. A second chance? No, he met her gaze. A choice. Sorexis turned slowly, the full weight of the moment wrapping around her like a shroud. Behind her, the archive of memories burned brighter. In front of her, a sky full of nightmares. She activated her helm. Reconnected her link to the remaining Veltraxi satellites. One was still functional. She sent a pulse. One message. Encrypted. Signed. Stamped with authority. This is Commander Sorexis. The war is over. The humans are not our enemy. They are what we might become should we fail to learn. You have one cycle to respond. Then I will no longer speak for you. She cut the link. Cashin exhaled. That was bold. I'm not scared anymore, she said. And then he smiled. The real smile this time. Now you understand. The folded ones dropped from the sky like shards of entropy. The fear engines howled, without sound, without voice, without form. A song only humans could sing. Sorexis looked into the impossible storm coming for them and reached for her weapon. Not in fear. In purpose. Let's show them what happens, she said, when two survivors stand side by side. Cashin nodded. And what happens when fear meets something older? Older? Hope, he said. Then the sky turned black and the world became fire. In the records of the Veltraxi, there is now a place they never speak of aloud. A battlefield turned temple. A ruin haunted not by ghosts but by memory. And in the center of it, a statue. Not of a human, but of a Veltraxi commander, eyes wide, arms raised not in surrender, but in warning. Beneath her feet, etched in both their languages. Fear is not the end. It is where meaning begins. Like stories where humanity stares into the abyss and teaches it to blink first? Then hit that subscribe button. Join us in the void, where every fear is a forge and every fire makes us stronger. This has been another journey into the unknown. Welcome to the Void Narratives.